Mrs. Adiz Nwosu stood at the gates of Apex Technologies Limited in Victoria Island, Lagos, dressed in worn clothes that had seen better days. At 45, she was a founder and owner of this billion-naira tech empire, but today, she looked like any other struggling woman seeking cleaning work. Her faded wrapper was carefully chosen from a second-hand market. Her headscarf covered her usually well-styled hair. Her hands, normally manicured, were deliberately left rough. Dark makeup aged her face. Cheap rubber slippers completed the disguise. This was her annual ritual, going undercover to test her staff's character before the company award ceremony. She wanted to see who treated everyone with respect, regardless of position. Over the years, this method had revealed the true character of her employees better than any performance review. "I'm here for the cleaning position," she told the receptionist, keeping her voice humble and her eyes downcast. The receptionist barely looked up. "Third floor. Ask for Mr. Taiwo, the supervisor." As Mrs. Adiz rode the elevator up, she observed everything. The building she built from nothing now housed over 500 employees. But did they embody the values she'd founded the company on? That's what she was here to discover. Mr. Taiwo, a kind middle-aged man, gave her a brief interview and hired her on the spot. "You'll start today. We need someone to clean the executive floor, the manager's office, meeting rooms, and corridors." Perfect, she thought. The executive floor would give her the best view of how leadership treated their subordinates. By afternoon, Mrs. Adiz was mopping the corridor outside the manager's office when she heard shouting. "I don't care if he's in a meeting. I'm the Bena Okafor. Do you know who my father is?" A young man, about 22, stood at the secretary's desk. He wore designer clothes, an expensive Gucci shirt, gold chains, and luxury sneakers that probably cost more than most employees' monthly salaries. His face was twisted with entitlement and rage. The secretary, a young woman named Chisholm, remained professional despite the abuse. "Sir, your father specifically said not to disturb him. The meeting with investors is very important." Slap! The sound echoed through the corridor. Tabena had struck Chisholm across the face. Mrs. Adiz's grip tightened on her mop, but she forced herself to remain still, watching. "Don't you ever tell me what my father said," Tabena shouted. "You're just a secretary, a nobody. You exist to do what I say." Chisholm held her cheek, tears in her eyes, but she didn't respond. She clearly learned that fighting back only made things worse. That's when Tabena noticed Mrs. Adiz watching from the corridor. "What are you looking at, old woman?" he snarled, walking toward her. Mrs. Adiz lowered her eyes. "Nothing, sir. Just doing my work." "Just doing your work?" he mocked. "You're staring at me like you have an opinion. Do you? Does a cleaner have opinions about her betters?" "No, sir." "That's right. You're nothing. A cleaner. The lowest of the low." He kicked a bucket of water, sending it splashing across the floor she just cleaned. "There. Now you have more work to do. That's what you're good for." Mrs. Adiz knelt to clean up the spilled water, her heart pounding with controlled anger. But Tabena wasn't finished. He grabbed her headscarf and yanked it off, exposing her hair. "Look at you. Pathetic. You probably have 10 children you can't feed, begging for this job." Then he slapped her, not hard enough to seriously injure, but hard enough to humiliate. Mrs. Adiz's cheek stung. She kept her eyes down, playing her role, gathering evidence. At that moment, the manager's office door opened. Mr. Chinedu Okafor stepped out, a man in his early 50s, well-dressed, carrying himself with the authority of his position as company manager. "Tabena, what are you doing here?" Then he saw the scene, the spilled water, the frightened cleaner, his son's aggressive stance. Mrs. Adiz waited for the correction, the apology, the discipline any good leader would provide. Instead, Mr. Chinedu smiled proudly. "That's my boy, showing these workers who's in charge. They need to know their place, or they'll become lazy and disrespectful." He patted his son's shoulder. "Come into my office. I'll finish early. Let's go for lunch, my treat." As father and son walked away laughing, Mrs. Adiz slowly stood up, replacing her headscarf. Her cheek still burned, but her resolve burned hotter. Chisholm approached quietly, helping her pick up the bucket. "I'm so sorry," the secretary whispered. "Are you okay?" "I will be," Mrs. Adiz replied softly, studying this young woman who showed kindness when no one was watching. She had learned everything she needed to know from this first day. The test had begun, and the results were already clear. Will the cruel father and son face justice? What will happen when they discover who she really is? Drop your predictions in the comments. Like this video and subscribe for next chapter, where the daily abuse continues and secrets are revealed. Turn on notifications. The next 2 weeks were a calculated exercise in endurance. Every day, Mrs. Adiz arrived at 6 a.m., dressed in her cleaner's disguise, and endured systematic humiliation. Tabena made it his personal entertainment. He would accidentally knock over trash cans she just emptied. He'd walk across freshly mopped floors with muddy shoes. Once, he poured his coffee on the floor and made her clean it while he watched, laughing. "Faster, old woman. My father pays you to work, not to move like a snail." Mr. Chinedu was no better. He treated her like furniture, invisible until he needed something. "You there, clean this now, and make sure you don't touch anything on my desk. People like you have sticky fingers." But it was Chisholm, the secretary, who became Mrs. Adiz's unexpected ally. One afternoon, after Tabena had deliberately kicked over her cleaning supplies, Chisholm helped her gather them. "I'm sorry you have to deal with this," she whispered. "It's not your fault, my dear," Mrs. Adiz replied, maintaining her humble persona. "It's not right, though," Chisholm said, her voice tight with suppressed anger. "The way they treat people here. It's gotten worse since Mr. Chinedu became manager 3 years ago." Over the following days, during brief moments when they were alone, Chisholm began to confide in Mrs. Adiz. "I stay because I need this job," Chisholm explained one evening as they both worked late. "But I've seen things that aren't right." "What kind of things?" Mrs. Adiz asked gently. Chisholm hesitated, then pulled out her phone. "I've been keeping records. I know I shouldn't, but someone needs to know what's happening here." She showed Mrs. Adiz photos of documents, financial statements that didn't match, invoices for supplies that were never delivered, contractor payments that seemed inflated. "Mr. Chinedu has been embezzling," Chisholm whispered. "I processed the paperwork, so I see it all. He has shell companies. He inflates costs and pockets the difference. Over the past 2 years, I estimate he's stolen at least 50 million naira." Mrs. Adiz's expression remained neutral, but internally her blood boiled. This was worse than she'd suspected. "There's more," Chisholm continued. "The way he treats junior staff. 3 people have quit because of Tabena's harassment. 2 women filed complaint about him. But Mr. Chinedu buried the reports. He protects his son no matter what he does. Why haven't you reported this to the owner?" Mrs. Adiz asked carefully. Chisholm laughed bitterly. "The owner? Mrs. Nwosu? No one ever sees her. She's like a ghost. We get directives to the vice president, but she herself, some people think she doesn't even exist, that the VP actually runs everything. But surely someone must know how to contact her. If they do, they're not telling people at my level. Mr. Chinedu always says he reports directly to her, but who knows if that's true?" Chisholm sighed. "All I know is there's a big meeting scheduled for next Friday. Mr. Chinedu has been preparing for weeks. He says the owner is finally coming to the office, and he's going to ask for a promotion to CEO." Mrs. Adiz filed this information away carefully. The abuse continued daily. One morning, Tabena found her cleaning the men's bathroom. "This floor has a spot," he said, pointing. When she bent to clean it, he stepped on her hand with his expensive shoe, grinding down slightly. Mrs. Adiz gasped in pain, but didn't cry out. "Oh, sorry," he said with mock concern. "Did I hurt you? Maybe if you cleaned better, I wouldn't have to point out your mistakes by stepping on them." Only Chisholm's kindness made it bearable. The young secretary would sneak her pain medication, bring her extra lunch, and most importantly, provide crucial information about the company's operations. The annual award ceremony is the same day as the owner's visit. Chisholm told her one day, Mr. Chinedu is planning to use it to impress her. He's already written his own acceptance speech for Manager of the Year. The arrogance is unbelievable. Mrs. Adiz smiled slightly. Perhaps he's counting his chickens before they hatch. I hope so, Chisholm said. You know what? You remind me of my grandmother. She was strong like you. She used to say, character is how you treat people who can do nothing for you. Your grandmother was a wise woman, Mrs. Adiz replied, and you honor her by treating people well, even when others don't. That Friday afternoon, as Mrs. Adiz was cleaning Mr. Chinita's office, she found an interesting document in his trash, a draft email to a contractor discussing how to inflate an invoice. She photographed it discreetly with a small camera hidden in her cleaning supplies. When Debena burst in unexpectedly and saw her near his father's desk, he grabbed her roughly. What are you doing? Trying to steal something? No, sir. Just emptying the trash. He shoved her hard. She fell, hitting her shoulder against the desk. Get out, and if I ever catch you near my father's papers again, I'll make sure you're fired and blacklisted from every company in Lagos. Mrs. Adiz gathered her supplies and left, limping slightly. But in her pocket was a camera with all the evidence she needed. As she left the building that evening, Chisholm caught up with her. Are you all right? I saw what happened. I'll survive, Mrs. Adiz said. I've survived worse. 1 more week, Chisholm said. The owner's visit is in 1 week. Maybe things will change then. Yes, Mrs. Adiz agreed, her eyes holding a secret knowledge. I believe things will change very much. The evidence is mounting. What will happen when the owner finally reveals herself? Comment your thoughts below. Smash that like button. Subscribe for next chapter where the day of reckoning arrives. This is about to get intense. Friday arrived, the day Mrs. Adiz Nwosu, disguised cleaner, would reveal herself as Mrs. Adiz Nwosu, company owner. The building buzzed with nervous energy. Everyone knew the owner was coming. The mysterious Mrs. Nwosu, who rarely visited, would finally appear. Mr. Chinita had prepared meticulously. His office was spotless. His suit was custom-tailored. His presentation for promotion to CEO was rehearsed to perfection. His son Debena was dressed in his finest clothes, ready to make a good impression. They had no idea the woman they'd been tormenting for 2 weeks held their futures in her hands. Mrs. Adiz arrived at 6 a.m. as usual, in her cleaner's clothes. Today would be her final performance in this role. You! Mr. Chinita barked when he arrived at 8 a.m. The owner is coming today. Everything must be perfect. Clean the conference room again. And stay out of sight when she arrives. I don't want her seeing people like you. Yes, sir, Mrs. Adiz murmured. Debena was even worse. If you embarrass my father today, I'll make sure you never work again. Understand? The morning crawled by. Mrs. Adiz cleaned the executive conference room 3 times. The large mahogany table gleamed. 12 leather chairs sat perfectly arranged. At the head of the table, 1 chair, larger, more ornate, awaited the owner. At 2 p.m., staff began gathering. The conference room would host both the owner's meeting and the award ceremony. Mr. Chinita stood at the entrance, greeting senior staff. Debena stood beside him, chest puffed with borrowed importance. Chisholm managed the registration, checking names against the guest list. When she saw Mrs. Adiz still cleaning in the corner, she approached quietly. You should go, Chisholm whispered kindly. If Mr. Chinita sees you here when the owner arrives, he'll be furious. I'll leave soon, Mrs. Adiz assured her, just finishing up. At 2:30 p.m., the vice president's assistant announced, Mrs. Nwosu will arrive in 15 minutes. All staff please be seated. The room filled quickly. Executives, managers, team leaders, all dressed in their finest, all eager to see the legendary founder. Mr. Chinita positioned himself near the owner's chair, ready to greet her personally. Debena stood beside him, practicing his respectful bow. Mrs. Adiz, still in her cleaner's uniform, gathered her supplies slowly. You! Mr. Chinita hissed at her. Why are you still here? Get out! Now! I'm going, sir. Not fast enough. Debena stepped forward and grabbed her arm roughly. Do you want to ruin everything? Leave. He shoved her toward the door. She stumbled, dropping her cleaning cloth. "Stupid woman," Tabena muttered, kicking the cloth away. "Can't even clean properly. Why do we hire these?" "The owner has arrived," someone announced. Everyone stood at attention, but Mrs. Adiz didn't leave. Instead, she straightened her back, adjusted her headscarf, and walked calmly to the owner's chair at the head of the table. "What are you doing?" Mr. Chinidu whispered urgently. "That's the owner's seat. Move. Now." Mrs. Adiz sat down calmly in the ornate chair. The room gasped. Mr. Chinidu's face turned purple with rage. Tabena started forward, fist raised. "How dare you?" The conference room doors opened. Mr. Obi, the vice president, entered. He was a distinguished man in his 60s, one of the few people who knew Mrs. Nwosu personally. He walked directly to Mrs. Adiz, sitting in the owner's chair in her cleaner's clothes, and he bowed deeply. "Good afternoon, ma'am. Welcome. We're honored by your presence." The room went deathly silent. Mr. Chinidu's mouth fell open. Tabena froze, fist still raised, his face draining of color. Chisholm's hands flew to her mouth in shock. Mrs. Adiz smiled calmly. She reached up and removed her headscarf, then wiped away the aging makeup she'd applied that morning. "Thank you, Mr. Obi," she said, her voice now clear and commanding, the voice of a woman who built a billion-naira empire. "Shall we begin?" She looked directly at Mr. Chinidu, whose legs seemed about to give way. "Mr. Okafor," she said pleasantly, "I believe you wanted to meet with me today. Something about a promotion." Mr. Chinidu's mouth opened and closed like a fish out of water. No sound came out. Tabena had gone absolutely still, his raised fist now trembling. "Or perhaps," Mrs. Adiz continued, her voice taking on an edge of steel, "we should first discuss your management style? I've had the opportunity to observe it quite closely these past 2 weeks." "Ma'am, you?" Mr. Chinidu couldn't form a sentence. "Sit down, Mr. Okafor," Mrs. Adiz commanded. "You too, Tabena. We have much to discuss." As the implications crashed down on them, both men realized their world was about to end. Chisholm stood in the corner, tears streaming down her face, not from fear, but from vindication and relief. "Before we begin," Mrs. Adiz said to the assembled staff, "I want to explain what you've witnessed. Every year, I go undercover my own company. I become a cleaner, a janitor, sometimes a cafeteria worker. I do this to see the truth, not the polished performance people give when the boss is watching, but the real character they show when they think no one important is looking." She stood, and despite her simple cleaner's clothes, she commanded the room with natural authority. "This year's test has been enlightening." Mr. Chinidu had gone pale. Tabena looked like he might be sick. And Mrs. Adiz smiled, a smile that promised justice was about to be served. "The reveal. How will they face the consequences?" Comment justice. If you can't wait to see what happens next, like and subscribe for next chapter, where karma is delivered. Don't miss the fallout. The conference room remained frozen in stunned silence as Mrs. Adiz Nwosu stood at the head of the table, still in her cleaner's clothes, but now commanding absolute authority. "Mr. Obi," she addressed the vice president, "please ensure the doors are closed, and please ask security to stand by outside." As the doors closed, she turned her attention to a room full of employees, some looking relieved, others terrified, depending on how they treated the cleaner over the past 2 weeks. "Let's address the elephant in the room," Mrs. Adiz began. "Mr. Chinidu Okafor and his son Tabena, please remain standing." Father and son stood on shaking legs. "During my 2 weeks as a cleaner in this building, I witnessed theft, assault, harassment, and systematic abuse of power. Mr. Okafor, you have embezzled approximately 50 million naira from this company through fraudulent contractor invoices and shell companies." Mr. Chinidu's face went from pale to gray. "Ma'am, I can explain." "You can explain to the police and the EFCC," Mrs. Adiz said calmly. "They'll be here shortly. I've already filed reports with evidence." She pulled out a folder and placed it on the table. "Copies of documents, photographs, and recordings. 2 weeks of documentation. You made it very easy, actually. Your trash bin is quite informative." She turned to Debena. As for you, young man, you assaulted me twice. You slapped your secretary. You've created a hostile work environment so toxic that 3 employees quit and 2 filed harassment complaints that your father buried. Tabena's mouth opened, but no words came out. His expensive clothes suddenly looked like a costume on a scared boy. You kicked me, called me slave, mocked my poverty. You found joy in humiliating someone you thought was powerless. Her voice was ice. Let me tell you something about power. Tabena, real power isn't in making people fear you. It's in lifting people up. And you have none of it. She gestured to security at the door. Please escort both Mr. Okafor and his son from the premises. They are terminated immediately. Their belongings will be sent to them. They are not to return to this building. As security moved forward, Mr. Chinidu found his voice. Please, I have a family. I'll pay back the money. Give me another chance. You had chances, Mrs. Adiz replied. Every day you chose theft over honesty. Every time your son abused someone, and you praised him instead of correcting him. Those were your chances, and you wasted them. My reputation. Mr. Chinidu cried as security took his arm. I'll never work again. That's correct, Mrs. Adiz confirmed. I'm making sure every company in Lagos knows exactly who you are. Thieves and bullies don't deserve second chances in positions of trust. As father and son were let out, Tabena's expensive lifestyle flashed before his eyes. The designer clothes, the luxury cars, the penthouse apartment. All funded by his father's theft. All about to disappear. Wait, he called out. I'm sorry. I didn't know. I'll change. Mrs. Adiz looked at him coldly. You didn't know I was the owner, but you knew I was a human being. And you treated me worse than an animal. That's who you are, Tabena. Now you'll learn what it's like to be powerless. When they were gone, she turned to the remaining staff. Now, for the pleasant part of today, the annual awards. She smiled at the nervous faces. Chisholm Okonkwo, please step forward. Chisholm, who'd been crying quietly in the corner, looked up in shock. You showed kindness when no one was watching. Mrs. Adiz said warmly, You helped me when I was hurt. You shared your lunch with someone you thought was just a poor cleaner. And most impressively, you documented corruption at great personal risk because you believed someone needed to know the truth. She held up a document. Effective immediately, you're promoted to executive assistant to the CEO, which is me. Your salary is tripled. You'll have your own office and a seat at senior management meetings. Chisholm burst into fresh tears. Thank you, ma'am. I don't know what to say. Say you'll continue being exactly who you are, Mrs. Adiz replied. We need more people with your integrity. She addressed the room. Let this be a lesson to everyone. Character is how you treat people who can do nothing for you. I was watching. I'm always watching. Those who showed kindness, respect, and integrity during these 2 weeks will be rewarded. Those who didn't, well, you've seen what happens. Several employees shifted uncomfortably, realizing they'd failed the test. But I believe in second chances for those willing to change, Mrs. Adiz continued. If you realize you need to do better, you'll have that opportunity. Just know that I will be watching. She removed her cleaner's uniform top, revealing a business suit underneath. Now, let's talk about the future of Apex Technologies. We're restructuring, new leadership, new values, and a commitment to treating every person in this building, from the CEO to the cleaners, with equal respect. As the meeting continued, word spread through the building. By evening, everyone knew the cleaner they'd ignored or mocked was the owner. Justice had come in the most unexpected package. In the parking lot, Mr. Chinidu sat in his car, watching security remove his personal items from the office. His phone rang constantly. Creditors, the car dealership for Tabena's luxury vehicle, the landlord of their expensive apartment. Tabena sat beside him, silent, as their world collapsed. What are we going to do, Dad? He finally whispered. For the first time in his life, Mr. Chinidu had no answer. He'd built their lifestyle on stolen money and arrogance. Now both were gone. Inside the building, Chisholm stood in her new office, unable to believe her fortune. And Mrs. Adiz Nwosu, back in her real clothes, smiled with satisfaction. The test was complete. Justice had been served. Karma delivered. But what happens to the father and son now? Comment below, like if you love seeing justice served. Subscribe for the final chapter, where we see the ultimate transformation. Don't miss how this powerful story ends. 6 months later, Lagos looked different from the bottom. Tabena Okafor sat on a bench outside construction site in Surulere, waiting for the foreman. His designer clothes were long gone, sold to pay debts. Now he wore simple jeans and a worn shirt, looking for any work he could find. The past 6 months had been brutal. When his father was arrested for embezzlement, their assets were frozen. The luxury apartment was seized. The cars, the jewelry, everything gone. His father was currently serving a 3-year prison sentence. Tabena had avoided jail only because he technically hadn't been involved in the theft, just the assault. And Mrs. Nwosu had chosen not to press charges, though she made it clear it wasn't forgiveness, just mercy. "Next," the foreman called. Tabena approached. "I'm here about the labor position." The foreman looked him up and down skeptically. "You ever done real work before?" "No, sir," Tabena admitted, "but I'm willing to learn. I need this job." "Why should I hire someone with no experience?" "Because I'm desperate," Tabena thought. "Because no legitimate company will hire me after what happened. Because I learned the hard way that my father stole money, and my arrogance means nothing now. Because I'll work harder than anyone else," he said aloud. "I have something to prove. To myself." The foreman studied him for a long moment. "You're the Okafor kid, aren't you? The one who got caught humiliating that cleaner, who turned out to be the company owner?" Tabena's face burned with shame. The story had spread across Lagos like wildfire, a cautionary tale shared in offices, schools, and homes. "Yes, sir, that was me. That was real stupid." "Yes, sir, it was." The foreman shook his head. "My wife read about that story. Made me promise to always treat people right, no matter their position." He paused. "You really learn your lesson?" "Every day," Tabena said quietly. "Every day I remember how I treated people when I thought I was better than them. How I slapped that secretary. How I kicked and mocked Mrs. Nwosu when she was pretending to be a cleaner. I was a monster." "You were," the foreman agreed. "Question is, are you still?" "I'm trying not to be," Tabena said. "I'm trying to be better. To understand what my father never taught me. That everyone deserves respect." The foreman handed him a hard hat. "You start Monday. Minimum wage. You'll be carrying bricks, mixing cement, and doing whatever we tell you. No special treatment." "Thank you," Tabena said, genuine gratitude in his voice. "Thank you so much." Meanwhile, at Apex Technologies, the company thrived under reformed leadership. Chisholm had proven to be an exceptional executive assistant. Her integrity and work ethic had helped rebuild the company's culture. Employees no longer lived in fear. They worked with purpose and pride. Mrs. Adiz had instituted new policies, anonymous reporting for harassment, transparent financial auditing, and a zero-tolerance policy for abuse of power. But more than policies, she'd changed the culture by example. She still went undercover occasionally, keeping everyone on their toes, ensuring the values remained real. One day, Chisholm brought her an unexpected visitor request. "Ma'am, Tabena Okafor is here. He's asking to see you." Mrs. Adiz raised an eyebrow. "Show him in." The young man who entered her office was different from the arrogant boy of 6 months ago. He was thinner, his hands rough from construction work, his eyes holding humility born from hard lessons. "Mrs. Nwosu," he said, standing respectfully, "thank you for seeing me." "Sit," she said, studying him. "What brings you here?" "I wanted to apologize," he said. "I know I apologized that day, but it wasn't real. I was just scared. Now, after months of working real jobs, being treated the way I treated others, I understand. I was wrong. Deeply, terribly wrong." "Go on," she said neutrally. "I've been working construction. Last week, a new site manager came in. Started treating us workers like we were dirt. Yelling, cursing, threatening our jobs if we didn't work fast enough." He looked up, and I realized that was me. That was exactly who I was. "What did you do?" I stood up for the other workers, told the manager he was out of line. He fired me on the spot. Tabena gave a sad smile, but it felt right. Better to lose a job than lose my soul again. Mrs. Adiz nodded slowly. What do you want from me, Tabena? Nothing, he said firmly. I didn't come to ask for a job or money. I just wanted you to know that your lesson stuck. You could have destroyed me completely, but you showed mercy. I didn't understand it then, but I do now. He stood. I'm going back to school. Night classes while I work. I want to build something honest. Be someone my future kids can be proud of. As he turned to leave, Mrs. Adiz spoke. Tabena, he turned back. Real change takes time, she said. The fact that you got yourself fired for defending workers shows me something. Keep going. Keep learning. When you finish school, if you're still on this path, come see me again. Hope flickered in his eyes. Thank you, ma'am. After he left, Chisholm entered. Do you think he's really changed? Time will tell, Mrs. Adiz replied. But I believe in giving people room to become better. That's what mercy is. Not pretending the wrong didn't happen, but believing people can grow beyond it. She looked at the photo on her wall. Her company's founding principles, including one that read, treat everyone with dignity, regardless of position. That's the lesson, she said to Chisholm. Not just for Tabena, but for all of us. We're all one circumstance away from being the person we look down on. Kindness costs nothing, but cruelty costs everything. 2 years later, Tabena graduated from university with a business degree earned through night school while working construction. He started a small company focused on ethical contracting, treating his workers with the respect he'd learned to value. He never forgot the lesson the cleaner who was an owner taught him. And across Lagos, the story of Mrs. Adiz Nwosu's undercover test became legend, a reminder that you never know who you're really dealing with. So you might as well treat everyone right. Because character isn't what you show when people are watching. It's who you are when you think no one important can see. The end. What an incredible transformation. Did Tabena deserve a second chance? Would you have shown mercy? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Smash that like button if the story taught you something. Subscribe for more powerful life lessons and African stories that inspire change. Share this with someone who needs to learn about respect and humility. Comment respect everyone. If you believe in treating all people with dignity, what story should we tell next? Let us know in the comments. Remember, never judge a book by its cover. Treat everyone with respect, regardless of their position. You never know who you're really dealing with. And more importantly, treating people right is simply the right thing to do. Stay humble, stay kind, and keep watching.